Welcome. If you're a woman who has a sense that there's more out there for you, you're in the right place. I'm Whitney Baker, host of the Electric Ideas podcast. Somewhere along the line of work and kids, life carried on, but I lost track of my truth. I'm on a reflective journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I interview a woman who is lighting her own path and offering others hope. Before our conversation ends, we'll share a reflective question for you to explore. Sometimes all we need is a jolt, a fresh idea, an aha moment that connects us to a sense of possibility. This, my friends, is what I call an electric idea.
Welcome back to Electric Ideas. I'm your host, Whitney Baker. I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, France Brunel, to the show. France is a Brooklyn and Paris-based holistic interior designer, and she also founded a company called Yoom, which she describes as a studio and editorial platform that sits right at this intersection of design and well-being that we are going to dive deep in today. France has taken this mix of background of interior design studies and mixed it with her expertise in yoga and Ayurveda in order to help people truly feel better and function better in their spaces. She's got all kinds of beautiful knowledge and practical ideas about how we can create environments around ourselves that support everything from sleep and focus to more intuitive eating or even deeper intimacy. I love this conversation because France really invites us to think intentionally about how our homes can support us, not just functionally, but emotionally and energetically. I know this episode is going to give you lots of sparks and inspiration and help you take action to create environments that really honor how you want to feel not only in your home, but also in your life. So let's get into it. Hi, France. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here, Whitney.
Your core belief that I just want to dive right into is that our daily surroundings are not just this backdrop in our lives, but rather they hold the power to shape our well-being. I'm wondering if you can just begin by grounding us a little bit in this notion.
Yeah, that's a great way to start. I mean, when you think about it, we spend 90% of our time indoors, yet most of us don't intentionally design our living spaces for our wellness goals. And so I think we're underutilizing a major daily source of well-being because when it comes to wellness, we usually focus on, everything on improving ourselves. Like we watch our diet, we work out, we take supplements, we get enough rest, etc. But what we often overlook is the actual impact that our living spaces have on our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And so when it comes to environment, oftentimes we look at improving air quality and we watch to make sure that the materials that we bring into our homes are clean, which all of these are obviously important, but there's more. We're so much more sensitive to our daily surroundings than we think. Just by evolutionary purposes, we have been made and our brain is programmed to scan our environment constantly to make sure and answer that key question, am I safe and can I relax in that environment or not? And so whether you realize it or not, in the background, your brain is constantly taking in information about the space, how it's laid out, the materials, the colors, the type of lighting, the type of textures you interact with. All of those actually contribute and are information and data that you take in to then basically experience some sort of experience. And so just to answer your question and give very concrete examples on how do our daily surroundings impact us, I mean, studies have and are starting to show it more and more. When you work by a window, you increase your productivity. When you reduce your nightstand clutter, you typically can have a deeper, more restful sleep. There's studies done on the impact of the color blue on your appetite. When you think of McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world, what colors do they use? They use red and yellow. Why? Because it stimulates appetite. It increases our blood flow and it actually makes us more hungry, more enthusiastic, and therefore will consume more. You see no fast food chain use the color blue, right? Because the brain sees blue as poison because in the natural environment, there's no blue food that comes from nature, except for blueberries, you could argue, but most of it. So your brain sees blue as I'm not sure, it's not going to be super appetizing, and therefore all of those are obviously subtle influences, but it does reduce your appetite. Natural light in offices can boost focus. Gardens in hospitals reduce patient recovery time by like 30% or something like that. There's a huge impact of our living environments on our day-to-day lives, and we can be a little bit more intentional, and we can engineer our spaces so they can actually support the life that we want to live, the habits that we want to have on a daily basis, etc.
Yeah. It's kind of like our environment is impacting us subconsciously. So if we're just kind of on autopilot or not giving it thought, it's impacting us. So for me, it's almost this invitation to why not be a little bit more intentional? Like, how can my environment be a source of nourishment, really? I just want to circle back to the blue and get a few more concrete examples because I think they're
Yeah.
fascinating. So I think a lot of women in my listenership lead full lives and they crave more intentional, maybe slow living, but it has to be realistic. And I love that you can share small things we can do. So, for a woman who wants to be a little bit more mindful about her daily eating, she wants to eat vibrantly and feel
Yeah.
good. What's a way that she could incorporate blue into her life?
Yeah, blue has, and this is color therapy, feng shui, vastu, like a lot of modalities use color for mind, body, and soul benefits or energetic benefits. So you can paint your kitchen walls a baby blue, or you can use actual dishes that are blue versus, white or yellow or red, etc. And you find that they're not the first color that you'll see at like big box stores typically. And that's exactly why, because they're typically not appetite inducing. They're typically appetite reducing. But blue is also calming. So, if you're looking to eat mindfully, you should definitely reduce clutter in your kitchen if possible and have like your kitchen counter as clutterless as possible. But blue can also appease the nervous system and help you make more mindful decisions when you're hungry and you're kind of like taken by hunger or stress, etc. As we all know, you can include blue in obviously your bedroom for better sleep, etc. But if we're thinking of healthier eating habits, it's mainly those like tabletop accessories, your table sets, your plates, your vases, the color of your cabinets. There's so many ways in your environment where you're making those key healthy eating decisions to include blue. There's other things that you can do besides blue if you're looking for more mindful eating. One of them, besides, decluttering your countertop, which sometimes seems unrealistic, one of the ways that I've done it too in my open kitchen is when I buy new appliances or new things that I'm going to put on my countertop, I buy it all the same color. So at least when I see it open, it's like this one doesn't have to be a black or white wall, but at least they're all different shapes and different textures, obviously because they're all different objects, but they're all the same color, so that I don't have like stainless steel and then red and then black, and it's just like by nature your appliances or the stuff that has to be on your countertop all the time just create like so much visual stimulus. So that's one. Another one is obviously you store your healthy foods at eye level and at arm's reach, and you hide the tempting stuff either high or at the back. You ditch the packaging of unhealthy foods. You put them in closed storage boxes. I used to work in packaging design, and they're design firms. They're people that have studied years of design to make you tempted into eating whatever is enclosed in that packaging. So, reducing temptation that way is a very easy thing to do. Eating from smaller salad plates that are like 8 inches versus dinner plates that are 12 inches are like simple ways to reduce your portion, because we tend to want to fill the plate regardless of the size. And so just reducing your plate. Obviously, all of these are not meant to, for us to starve ourselves at all. It's just like simple things to, we're all tired at night, and it's very easy to just overeat, and then we undersleep, and then it's like a whole vicious circle.
Yeah, it
Um,
just gives us a sense of intention. And I think these small things just help women make choices that support their well being. And I love anything that can just be simply woven into our day to
yeah,
day. It's not adding something to
no,
choose, okay, I'm going to sit down and use a small blue plate for my lunch today, and just gives this layer of intention. So I
Yeah.
love it. What
One last thing on
Oh,
the
yeah,
plate
sure.
things that was super helpful. If you don't want to buy anything, additional in your house, you probably have different colored plates. And one main thing to consider is the food that I'm putting on my plate creating a contrast with the color of my plate? Meaning, if I have, carbonara pasta, which is like a white sauce pasta, I'm not going to want to put it on a white plate. Why? Because there's no contrast between the food and the plate. And so my brain is going to need a larger portion in order to feel satiated. So you always want your food to have a high contrast with your plate. And therefore you feel like it's just subconscious. Your brain feels like it's had enough.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. We talked a little bit about, we talked quite a bit about specifically blue, but I want to talk about color more in general because I happen to love color. I
Yeah.
feel like I try not to totally follow trends, but it's fun sometimes to just look at beautiful interiors if you're someone who
Yeah.
appreciates beauty.
Sure.
And I'm so happy we're beyond the like gray phase. But I think a lot of people are scared of color. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how we can incorporate color into our homes in a way that feels personal and makes us individually feel good.
So I'm a huge proponent of color and I attack beige a little too much sometimes on my Instagram, but it's obviously to make a point. Neutrals and beige and whites come into play and they're great tools at certain times. But if you are wanting to use more color, I mean, the thing I see is that most people fear color because they think it's about taste, but it's actually about the energy that you're bringing into your home. It's not so much a style choice, but it's more like emotional architecture. It has the power to soothe your nervous system. And that doesn't mean you need to be neutral in order to create a calming bedroom. You can create a calming bedroom with color. Just choose soothing colors like a pale pink, a pale blue, a terracotta, butter yellow. I mean, it's all a matter of like what shades you use and how you complement them with different textures on what shapes, what materials, etc. But like color has the power to soothe your nervous system, energize your morning, or even ground your evenings. When you choose color intentionally, you're designing not just for aesthetics, but for how you want to feel in your space. So if you want to boost optimism, in your home office or in your bedroom or in your kitchen, whatever, you could use yellow. If you think of green, green has a power at connecting us back to nature. So it calms our nervous system and helps us focus. Orange can be and act like an antidepressant. It's a super enthusiastic color. Try it. Wear an orange sweater one day and you'll see people are actually, especially in winter, are very receptive to that color. Terracotta will ground you. Lilac will soothe you. I mean, color isn't a risk. It's a tool. And if you're not ready to commit, you start small. You can paint a door. Not every door has to be white. You swap a pillow. I think the biggest thing to think of is like, how do I want to feel in my home rather than what are people going to say if I show it to my neighbors or my guests or on Instagram? Like your home isn't a showroom. Your home is a tool and it's a haven, whatever you want to, describe it as. You're creating it for you. And the biggest question to ask yourself, it's not if it's on trend or if my favorite Instagram blogger, whatever, is using that color. It's really when I see that color, is it jarring or am I actually feeling something based on the feeling that you get, where you apply it in your home? Obviously, we tend to not, if you want to have a restful bedroom, you're not going to put a bright orange in your bedroom. I mean, some people do it and that's great. You see based on, do you have sensitive sleep or not, etc.
Hi, it's Whitney popping in here with a little something I think you'll love. I know life can feel like a lot sometimes. We're all stretched in many directions, tending to kids, work, relationships, homes, all of it. But here's what I've learned. Even in the most chaotic of times, we get to choose to create space for ourselves, space to self-connect, to breathe, to remember what lights us up. That's why I created Tend Your Soul Toolkit. It's a free resource filled with a few of my favorite soul care practices, gentle, grounding ways to stay centered and connected, especially when life feels messy. This is intended to meet you where you're at because I believe in creating soul care practices that become supportive rhythms within our day-to-day, not some other big to-do that we never get to. One of the practices in my free Tend to Your Soul toolkit even involves a bit of decluttering. So if you're feeling nudged by today's conversation, sometimes it's nice to have a little structure to melt into, something you don't have to create for yourself. So the Tend to Your Soul toolkit is yours for the taking. If you're feeling a little pulled in all directions lately, accessing this tool will definitely help you remember that when you carve out time to tend to yourself, you're in a better position to show up for the people you love, the people you're trying to protect, at your highest expression for whatever ways you're being of service in your life. You can find a link to the free toolkit in the show notes for this episode of the Electric Ideas podcast. If that's not working for you, you're more than welcome to send me a direct message on Instagram. You can find me at @WhitneyWoman, and I'll send you the link directly. I want your life to be more light-filled and easeful. I know this episode of the podcast is supporting that too, so let's get back to the conversation. I love this, and my kids are now in junior high, and I recently painted and done some things around my house because I didn't want anything to be too precious when they were growing up, but now they're like, we're past the we're spilling grape juice phase. I definitely just intuitively had this approach where I walked into each room and I was like, how do I want to use this space and how do I want to feel in this space? And I really let the how do I want to feel guide me. I think that there's a fear sometimes, and again, I love your invitation to remember, but that your home is about creating spaces that you can use, that nourish you, that feel good. I love to be able to do the things I want to do in my life, in my home, because like you said, we're in our homes so much. I think people sometimes get tripped up about rooms, like there needing to be this huge cohesion in a whole house with color. And I'm just curious what your philosophy is there.
I mean, I think I see each room as a vessel for one or two, three activities max. What do you do in your home office? What do you do in your bedroom? What do you do in your kitchen? What do you do in your living room? And so then you design for that activity. And so based off of that, you choose colors, materials, layouts that support that activity. So for example, if you as a family or just as a person, you like to host dinners or whatever, your living room and your dining space, but really your living room is you want to foster connection between parents, kids, teenagers who are always on their phone or whatever it is. Then I question, should you lay out the whole living room around your TV? If your whole living room is laid out around your TV, subconsciously, it's inviting you for watching TV as a main habit. But if your living room is facing the outdoor, the window, or it's creating a circle of connection, you've got the couch and then you've got two seats in front or a banquette or whatever it is, or you have nothing, but you have a huge, plush rug where the small kids can play, etc. All of those little decisions are actually going to impact how you use the space and therefore how you live your life. And so for me, color doesn't have to be the same to answer your question from one room to one room. You can choose to use one holistic style in the whole house, but you can also have fun and have different styles in each room. If it's an open space with dining, kitchen, and living room, then you can think of color more strategically so that it either breaks the space into sections or it expands the space depending on your needs, if it's small or big. But overall, no, color is a tool for promoting a certain activity. And so therefore, you're not going to use the same colors, I think. Because if your whole home is beige and white, that you're not leveraging the power of color for the benefits that it can provide.
We all can sense, I think women especially, men too, but when you walk in a room and it just feels either lackluster or unsettling. And I feel like that could be a good place to start for people. I think with the advent, I'm curious about this with you working with clients. We talked a little bit about seeing images. And I feel like with Pinterest and Instagram, it's easy to get all of these ideas. If somebody wants to make some shifts in a space so it feels more nourishing for them, but they don't necessarily want to do an overhaul, and they don't want to get overwhelmed with options, where's a good place to start?
It can be overwhelming very easily. But there are a few things that you can do for it not to be so overwhelming is one, I think we tend to kind of be scattered when we want to make a change. And then we go from one room to the other. And I think one is taking one room at a time, first of all. And then two is, all right, in this room, what is not working? What's the main thing that's not working? Does it feel really dark and I want it to feel brighter because it's kind of depressing and I end up never spending time here? Or, is my back hurting and the couch just needs to go? Or my kids have, they're playing all over and their toys all over. I need to like designate a section. Maybe a rug would do it, or maybe clothes storage would do it, or etc. Really focusing on the biggest pain point and attacking it from different angles. Is it layout? Is it materials? Is it the actual furniture? Is it just a wall color that needs to change? Is it just adding a mirror because it's too dark, or adding a lamp, etc.? I think also getting support, obviously, from either an interior designer or friends or etc. But, I've done a lot recently of just one-off calls. Besides, not investing a whole project with an interior designer, people want to be involved and want to create, and people take pride in designing a home for their family and a home that works, etc. And it's a lot of people love it being a creative endeavor. And so I come in just one off, for 1 hour, and we brainstorm on the spot. Like, all right, what do you think of this tile? What do you think of this backlash? How can we fix, this artwork? And we like reshuffle the whole apartment on the phone. Like, I think getting support here and there, even if you want to roll your sleeves up, is also a way to get outside perspective. I think we tend to get overwhelmed easily in this process.
Yeah, that's cool that you offer that, because I think sometimes just making one solid decision is a good anchor, because it's like, okay, now this is going to be in the room. Now we can match that. Otherwise,
I know, because sometimes it's about everything is dependent on everything. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't choose my couch because haven't chosen my rug. But I haven't chosen my rug because I don't know if I'm going to get those curtains. And it's just and sometimes having someone's help making that first decision is the unlock for everything else. But I think one thing too is we start the call by saying our homes are super important, and they are the impact of our homes is very strong. But also, like, if we're so precious about the journey, we're paralyzed, and it's okay to make mistakes. I just installed drapery in my Parisian apartment and the color's horrific. It's like horrific. So I'm gonna have to return them, and it's bad. It's okay, like it's trial and error. You return them, so yeah, it's a little bit more work, but it also takes the pressure off. And it's okay if you have the wrong paint color, just paint it over. I think if we're a tiny bit less precious, just like with everything in life, like when you choose a job for the next 2-3 years, you're not choosing the job for the next 15 years.
Let
I
it be
think
playful almost and fun, not this like
exactly. Yes.
pressure, like, oh my God, what if I get it wrong? Yes. And I think even with hanging things too, it's like, whatever, take it off if it doesn't work.
Yeah, you can patch the hole in 2
Yeah.
seconds. There's so many Amazon kits that help you do that very cleanly.
I want to just talk a little bit about beauty in general, because I think interior design and cultivating spaces that honor beauty, and even just enjoying and making it a point to appreciate beautiful things in our lives, can be seen as superficial. And especially for women who just feel called to seek that in their day-to-day lives, I'd love for you to speak into your views on this.
Yeah, and I thought about beauty a lot. French originally, and beauty plays a very strong cultural role. And then obviously I studied design, but when you think about it, across cultures, beauty has always been more than aesthetics. I think it's actually a spiritual value, and it's seen across culture as a life force, as a way to connect with nature, with yourself, or with something that's like greater than ourselves, like connecting our limited human experience to something that's more eternal. I mean, when you think of churches and the old libraries of, British universities or whatever, it was used as a tool for connecting to something greater. When you think of, Japanese wabi-sabi, or like Indian rangoli, or even the French art de vivre, all of these are aesthetic expressions that actually are intertwined with more of a spiritual intention. Like when you design with intention, when you design your home with intention, or you inject like a decorative detail to a functional everyday object like a door handle or a water pitcher or even like a sink faucet, you're not being superficial. I think you're actually nourishing the part of you that creates harmony, that creates meaning, and that creates connection to something higher. And so when we surround ourselves with beauty, I think it's a birthright and it's not superficial or a luxury. Sometimes beauty is attained through luxury, but beauty is also comes through nature with a bouquet of flowers and beautiful colors. So beauty to me in your everyday softens your nervous system and it reminds you that you're here to live, that you're not just here to function and survive. It lifts us, I think, beyond the material and out of the mundane into something that's like more sacred and that has more meaning. So it's a spiritual take on beauty. But when you think of it, philosophers, I forget his name, but he was seeing beauty as one of the core truths of life. It was, or core tenets of life. It was truth, goodness, and beauty. And those three were the tenets of a human life.
I love that reflection. No, it just makes me think of like the smile on my face when I have, especially in the abundance of summer, like the fresh farmer market flowers on my table and like, a bowl full of oranges that are bright. It feels like I'm living more vibrantly. Like you said, it definitely helps me feel connected, self-connected and connected to whatever is bigger. So
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, just even the pure connection to nature is soothing and beneficial on all levels for us.
I know we're coming up on time, but I just want to ask you about your day to day life a little bit and how maybe beyond the home, you make intentional decisions about either, color or rituals or small things that help you feel like you're embodying beauty and well being and this kind of Eastern philosophy meets design ethos in your own life.
I mean, I have a multidisciplinary background where I'm a designer and I studied to be a yoga teacher in India in an ashram. And then I studied Ayurveda, which is traditional Indian medicine, for 2 years. So I blend those disciplines together, but I'm also an entrepreneur. And I believe that, and I'm studying Kabbalah right now, and they talk a lot about, you're the creator of your own life. And I mean, as a designer, as an entrepreneur, as anyone, as human beings, we create our own lives. We create our own thoughts, which actualize into everyday habits or everyday experiences. So I'm extremely conscious of, the colors I wear, the content I consume. The morning mug for my matcha or my warm water will be yellow or optimistic, like sky blue, just because it's energizing and it's brightening. My evening tea will be in a terracotta mug or in a darker, more grounding mug. And typically it's like a matte surface. The tactile texture actually grounds the nervous system. My bedroom has an anchoring rug, like small daily rituals. Like I hide all of the bright lights of any, charging stations or the microwave or anything in my home at night. I either hide it or temporarily or, definitely tape over them. Lighting is a huge thing. After, 9 p.m., I lower all lights so that my circadian rhythm can actually catch up and melatonin production can kick in. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that I do subconsciously that I'm not even aware of.
Yeah, no, those are perfect examples. I just feel like, yeah, I'm sure some of them are just so habituated in a beautiful way, but that just gives people a little more sense. So I appreciate
Yeah,
you sharing.
of course.
I always end my episode with a chance for reflection, and you've posed some beautiful chances already for us to reflect. But in this area of cultivating environments that nourish us, mind, body, and soul, what's one question women could be asking themselves more?
Am I feeling how I want to feel every day? So I'm not talking about like ecstatic, but like sometimes I do a lot of meditation. You know that as a meditation teacher is sometimes I get into meditation. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just doing it because it's a daily habit. But then all of a sudden my whole skull starts relaxing and my belly starts getting soft. I'm like, whoa, I did not realize I was so stressed or tense. I think especially women, especially moms, etc. The tense or the stress is such a new normal that we have taken it kind of for granted or for the new normal base But I think that main question, if you're, to journal or answer it through journaling or even in the morning or at night, reflecting on how your day was, is my home, if we're talking about built environments, is the way that I used spaces today reflective and productive at the life I want to live? So did I end up binge watching TV for 3 hours when I said I was going to work out? And it's not to like punish ourselves, but it's to just reflect back and say, okay, maybe there is a little space where I could leave my yoga mat open all the time. That way, all I have to do is just step on it. It's already like taking a lot of friction away from getting yourself to work out. Or maybe I could pull out my workout clothes at the bottom of my bed or on my bedroom chair so that in the morning, I don't even think about it. I just put them on. You're just one step closer to the gym, etc. And it's a hard question to answer. Is my home allowing me to live the life I want to live? But if you just reflect on just that day, did I spend my time right? And if not, what is it about the space that I can change to influence tomorrow?
What's bubbling up for me is almost like, did I live in my home today how I want to live in my life? You know?
Yeah. Did I go reach for, my kids' snacks that's like not super healthy rather than eating a fruit? Okay, then tomorrow I pull out a fruit bowl in the middle of my kitchen counter and just like, if it's plain sight, you're more likely to grab it if you're hungry, etc. So it's like small things like that you can reflect on and then change tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I've really, really deeply enjoyed connecting with you. Where can we find you and follow you and get inspired by all the wisdom and beauty you're bringing into the world?
I share tips on daily basis on Instagram at I am France Brunel. I share easy ways to use color, materials, layouts, tips for interior design hacks for well-being on there. And then my website is weareyoom.com, YOOM. There are more blog articles there on interior design for well-being, and then you can book me there as well. But basically, these are the two main sources.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Whitney, for all of the work that you're putting out into the world. I'm very excited to continue our exchanges.
I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're looking for more, feel free to connect with me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. And if you enjoyed the show, I invite you to support me by leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hope you have an inspired day.